Hi there. Dwight and I today are going to show you how to make dog bones. My husband just finished making beer and we have a lot of spent grains left over. So we are going to make those into dog bones because, well, Dwight wants cookies. We are going to mix up some peanut butter, flour, and eggs. There's a little secret I'm going to show you. And then we'll roll them, make them into various different shapes, bake, and we're done. All right, so these are a peanut butter dog cookie. So we're going to start with flour. The proportions of this recipe is 4 to 1 to 2 to 2. I am doing an extra large batch because I have a bunch of friends who also want dog cookies. So I'm starting with the flour. You would normally use 2 cups of flour. I am going to use 8. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And that is our flour. Now I'm going to mix in the grains, and here I have 16 cups of spent grain. This is from an oatmeal stout that he made. I don't know exactly what all the grains are, but there's oats in it, which makes it really good for the dog's coats. It's what makes Dwight such a shiny dog. And I'm doing this today from a new location for you. I'm doing this from my backyard. So it's a little windy here today. So if you see flour flying, it's because the wind is blowing and we're outside and having a good time in the yard. So I pre-measured these grains and it's 16 cups and it looks like it's way too much for my mixer. So I'm going to just take half of these grains out and I'll mix them in later. Because the mixing bowl is overflowing. And I don't know if you can see it on camera, but Dwight is below me picking up the stuff I spill. He loves these cookies, and he knows that when I sit here doing this, it means cookies are coming. All right, that should give the mixer enough room to mix. Turn it on really slow right now. And the grains and the flours are going to go flying. I'm just making sure it doesn't come out of the bowl. These grains are still very wet from the beer process. All right. And I am making a royal mess, but that's okay because we're outside. Just have to hose it off later. Okay. All right. Scoop away from the side of the bowl there. There we go. And now I'm going to throw in the eggs. And the trick is, because these are dogs, they get whole eggs. Dogs can digest the shells of eggs where humans can't, and this gives them a little bit of extra calcium. So I just threw in 8 whole eggs. And I'm just breaking them by hand. I am making a real mess here. Making sure that the eggs all break up. eggs have been mixing really nicely. It's time for our final ingredient, peanut butter. When you use peanut butter, do not, I repeat, do not use a sugar-added peanut butter. It is not good for your dogs. This recipe, again, I said was 4, 1, 2, 2. So since we're quadrupling the recipe, we have 4 cups of peanut butter here. And I'm just going to pour it right in to the mixer. And I'm just going to take a spatula and start scraping out the peanut butter jar. I have to tell you, I dislike peanut butter immensely, so I must love my dogs to even be around the smell of peanut butter. I hate it. Go. And the mixer is still running, and it's just incorporating that peanut butter as it goes. Scrape the bottom of the jar. Okay. Make sure it's mixing in all right here. A little bit more peanut butter in the jar here. Come on, peanut butter, out you come. Normally, for most recipes, what I would do is take my liquid content and scrape the jar out with a bit of liquid in the jar, but there is no liquid in this recipe, so we are just doing our best to scrape the jar out thoroughly. Come on. Oh, there's a big chunk. There we go. Just use my fingers here to scrape off of the spatula. And there we go. I'm just going to make sure the peanut butter gets throughout the whole batch here. And I'm going to just put more of our excess grain in here. And I'm going to do it a lot slower so it mixes in this time instead of doing it all at once and letting it go flying out of the bowl. I don't know if you can see the dogs under the table enjoying the feast that they're getting. All of our grain is now in and the machine is mixing and kneading. When this is fully incorporated, we'll come back and shape our cookies. All right, so now I have a mess of dough, and I am literally just going to scoop a bunch of it out of the bowl, taking a fairly small bunch of it out of the bowl. And I'm just patting it out. That's all it needs, just pat it out. You could roll it with a rolling pin or not. It's totally up to you. And I'm just taking a dog bone, cookie cutter, pressing down, and peeling away from the sides of the dog bone. Just shaping it inside the cookie cutter and letting it come out onto the cutting board in a shape. And it's somewhat dog bone shaped. I'm now going to make a much larger, flatter shape. Add a little bit more dough to this here. little bit more because the cookie cutter I have next is a hexagon, and it's got 6 cookies on it. And that is, where did it go here? My cookie cutter go here. There we go. The same cookie cutter I use for biscuits. And I'm literally going to press down. And I can hear some eggs crunching in there. That's perfect. And I'm going to literally just peel the excess away from the sides now. Put those back in the big bowl. And here we have 6 cookies cut into hexagons, ready to go. I am now just going to lay these out on a cookie sheet and bake them and show you what we've got when we're done. All right, so here we have a bunch of different shapes of cookies. These ones I cut with just a knife and by drawing lines. These ones here I used my cookie cutter. Their shapes are not as smooth as, you know, a professional would make them, but hey, these are for dogs. It's the flavor they want. These are now going to bake in the oven at 400 degrees for an hour, and then I'm going to turn the oven off and leave them in the oven with the oven just cooling down overnight. And if they're not completely hardened and dried, I will put them in again for 200 until they break by just snapping them in half. All right, we'll be back and I'll show you what these look like tomorrow. All right, so here we have the dog cookies I baked. These have been sitting and drying overnight. I am going to try and snap it. It will not snap. It is rock hard. You want to preserve these in a bag if you have some desiccant or something to keep them dry. It's really important to keep these as dry as possible. They will last forever as long as they don't get wet. Here at my foot, we have our old foster dog. This dog is deaf and blind. And while I was baking these yesterday, she didn't even know it was happening. So she gets the pleasure of eating the very first cookie.
Lyra, there's a cookie.
And she is very, very happy. Now we have Dwight, and he gets one of the cookies as well. I'm not going to give you that one. That one's too big for you, buddy. And we have a friend's dog, Pumpkin, who is visiting. Pumpkin, Pumpkin. Dwight, you get the smaller one. There you go. And there you go, Pumpkin. So as you can see, the dogs love these cookies. They think they're the greatest. Can you hear them crunching? Isn't that awesome? I hope you make this recipe. Please subscribe. Tell us if you like the video. Click the bell, all that wonderful stuff, and let me know what you want me to cook for you next.